Find the area of the rectangle. Okay, if we have a rectangle that is 13 meters long and 8 meters high, then we can divide it into 1 meter by 1 meter blocks and count up the number of blocks. Why would we want to divide it into 1 meter by 1 meter blocks? Because the area is 1 meter by 1 meter. This is 1 square meter. Okay, 1 square meter. And then we can count up how many 1 square meter blocks do we have. Okay, but that's going to take a long time. But we do know that we have 8 rows of 13 blocks. So instead of counting, we can just multiply 8 times 13, and get 104, and then we know we have 104 square meters. Much faster. Okay, so we can turn this into a formula. And the formula is going to be something like the area of a rectangle will be its base times its height. Or you can think of it as its length times its width. Okay, either way. So now let's find the area of a rectangle measuring 7 centimeters by 21 centimeters. Okay, so 7 centimeters by 21 centimeters. So instead of drawing out dividing this into 7 parts and dividing the length into 21 parts and counting the blocks, we could just multiply 7 times 21 and get 147 square centimeters. Much faster. The area of a rectangular rug is 12 square yards, and the length is 4 yards. Find the width. So we have a rug. The length is 4 yards. The entire area is 12 square yards. We want to know what is the width. So we can use the formula to help us. Area is length times width. The area is 12 yards. The length is 4 yards. What is the width? So we have 4 times W right here. This is a formula we can solve. We can divide both sides by 4, and that will tell us what W is. The width must be 3 yards. Notice that this width is a one-dimensional idea. Okay, it's just the width of the rug. It's not in 2 dimensions. And so because it's only a one-dimensional idea, like perimeter, it's to the first power. It's just yards. It's not yards squared. Whereas the area is a 2-dimensional idea because it takes up space, the ground. Okay, so in this case, because it's a rug, and so it's 2 dimensions, and so we have yards squared. Now let's take 1 second to kind of think about that for a minute. We have our rug. It was 12 yards squared. And how do we know that it is 12 yards squared? Well, the width is 4 yards, and the length is 4 yards, and the width we said was 3 yards, and area we know is length times width. So what happens here is the length is 4 yards, and let's go ahead and leave the unit in, and the width is 3 yards, and let's leave those units in as well, and we get 4 times 3 is 12, and we get yards times yards. What happens when we multiply yards times yards, or if we have anything times itself, it's squared. And that's where the squared comes in. Find the area of a square highway sign that is 4 feet on each side. So we have a square, okay, it's 4 feet on each side. So what is the area going to be? Well, we can think of this as if it were a rectangle and say length times width. The length would be 4, and the width would also be 4. So we get 4 times 4, which is 16 feet squared. But we could also come up with a new formula. Because this is a square and the length and the width are going to be the same thing, we could say S times S, side times side. Because the sides are the same, we can use the same letter to represent them. But if we have S times S, anything times itself is squared. So we could, in a sense, have a brand new formula just for triangles, and it would work out the same way. We would have 4 squared, and 4 squared is still 16 square feet. Okay, let's use our new formula to answer this question. If the area of a square township is 49 meters squared, what is the length of one side of the township? Okay, so we know that the area is 49 square meters. We want to know what is one side. Our new formula was A equals S squared, the area of a square. We know the area is 49, and 49 is going to be S squared. So we have to have something times itself is going to be S. And what times itself gives us 49? 7, right? So 7 times 7 is 49. So S must be 7. 7 meters. Let's take a look at a parallelogram. A parallelogram is a rectangle that has been bent. But what happens if we take the corner off of this parallelogram so that it has a straight edge, it has a rectangular corner, okay, a 90-degree angle right here and right here. And we take this and we replace it over here. Okay, move it to this side. Okay, so that this side now has a 90-degree angle and a 90-degree angle. Well, we've just made ourselves a rectangle out of a parallelogram. And the rectangle, the base is the same as it was, right? So this distance right here, the old base, is the same as this distance right here, the new base, right? Because we just moved this part over to here. Okay, so we didn't change the base at all. But what we did change, and we didn't actually change the height at all, okay, because this side is the exact same as this side. But it is very important to notice that the height is not the same as the slant. Okay, so the slant is the side of the parallelogram. The height is the right angle or the perpendicular height of a parallelogram. And so this height is always going to be shorter than the slant. Alright, so we have to just make sure we realize that. But that allows us to use the same formula we were using for area of a rectangle, length times width. Now we're going to say area of a parallelogram is base times height. Find the area of this parallelogram. We have a slant of 30, a base of 47, and a height of 24. So if we're going to use the formula area equals base times height, remember never to use the slant. We just want the base, 47, and the height, 24. All right, so 47 times 24, 4 times 7 is 28, 4 times 4 is 16, and 2 times 7 is 14, and 2 times 4 is 8, plus 1, add, and we get 1,128 square meters. The area of a parallelogram is 24 feet, and the base is 6 feet. Find the height. So we have a parallelogram. The base, the area is 24 feet, square feet, it should say, and the base is 6 feet. And we want to know, what is the height? What is h? Okay, so the formula tells us area equals base times height. The area is 24. The base is 6. What is the height? We can divide both sides by 6, and we get 4 is the height. So 4 feet. A group of neighbors is fixing up a playground for their children. The rectangular lot is 22 yards by 16 yards. If a chain link fence costs $6 per yard, how much will they spend to put a fence around the lot? Okay, so let's think very carefully about what this is asking. We have a lot. It is 22 yards by 16 yards, and we want to put up a fence around the lot. Okay, so all the way around the outside. So what is this question asking for? Area? No, actually, it's asking for perimeter. So we want to go around the lot with chain link, and we need to know how much chain link we need in yards, and then we're going to multiply that by 6 so that we can get the price, because every 1 yard is $6, so we can get the total price. So let's go ahead and find the perimeter. It's going to be 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. So that will be 2 times 22 plus 2 times 16, which is 44 plus 32, which is 76 yards. And then we're going to multiply 76 yards because the chain link fence costs $6 per yard. Let's think about the units of this for 1 second. We have 76 yards, and we're going to be multiplying that by $6 per yard. Okay, per yard, that tells us that yards is in the denominator. When we multiply fractions, what happens? Okay, we just multiply the numerator and the denominator. But actually, look what we can do with these units. Okay, yards is in the numerator right here and in the denominator right here. So when we multiply, we're going to have 76 times 6. Okay, let's do that over here real quick. 76 times 6, 36. 3 plus 42 is 456. So 456 in the numerator and 1 in the denominator. Now, what happens to our units? Okay, the yards canceled out, so all we have is dollars in the numerator for our units. So we have $456 over 1, and anything over 1, right, is just that number. And so we just have $456. All right, and notice the dollar sign is in front of the number, which is weird for units, but that's how it's done.